This is Sneaker Gears. My name is Levi, and welcome to a special edition where we are kind of remembering the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan. And this is part 3. We're going to be comparing the shoes that he wore, the Jordan 13 and 14, to the latest, most modern technology that's equally comparable, and see how well those retros stack up. Let's jump right in. Watching this channel, you may have noticed part 1 was released last week, and this is part 3. Levi, what'd you do with part 2? Alright, the reason I jumped to part 3 is because this weekend, Nike re-released, right on cue, the Jordan 13 Flint, what I consider to be in my top 3 most beautiful shoes of all time. Now, I don't mean to flex on you guys. This is not a flex. I have chosen, starting late last year, where I only buy performance shoes. And it's a hard choice. I did it for business purposes, financial purposes, where I want to bring you the best content. And that means getting the best shoes for performance, not really getting shoes that I just enjoy and like. So what are these? Well, if you guys watch M Jordan, I'll show you the tag. Is that visible? These are the OGs, my friend. I have a pair that beat the snot up, and I have a pair that I bought, wore a couple times, and I put back away. This is the original with the beautiful leather. These are just gorgeous to me. So the Jordan 13, how does it play? And if you're wondering, well, Levi, you haven't played in those in years. They've been in storage. Yes, but as a collector, I do not have just one pair of 13s. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a couple pairs. I'm still a collector, guys, even though I do focus on performance. One of the more regular shoes I have played in a couple times is also one of my favorite shoes ever. This is the Quad 54 13 Low. Obviously, this is not OG, but this is giving us the same essential performance, albeit as a low top, which I generally prefer. But what's cool about the Jordan 13 is because it has this cut underneath here, and we'll jump in the fit here in a second, where it's asymmetrical. It does give you a feeling a little bit of a low cut where it's not so high, but it is protecting you where it needs to. But let's put these both back over here and we'll jump right in. All right, so the Jordan 13 and 14 actually use very similar setups, heel and forefoot zoom. Now for basketball, when this came out in 98 and then 99 with the Jordan 14, this was all new. We had full-length zoom on the Jordan 12, and we'll get back to that. We had full-length air prior to that, but having a segmented zoom will allow a little bit more flexibility between the heel and the forefoot, a lot of larger shank plate. Your foot could move more naturally. That was something we hadn't seen before, and both were amazing models. Now the Jordan 14, and I do have the black toe right here, was so good. He broke it out for the Last Dance, for the last shot, even though Nike or Jordan told him don't, or the brand told him don't wear these yet. You don't tell MJ what to do. He's the GOAT. He put them on anyway, and it's seared into our memories. Last shot, him wearing the Jordan 14s. Now I have had a couple pairs of the last shot version. I think the closest pair to what he wore, which was technically still a prototype, was one that was released in the pack with the 14 and the 9s. I don't have that, but those are the ones I technically do want to get my hands on. So it's 2020. What's a shoe that has heel and forefoot zoom that also is going to have pretty good traction on both sides, a very good amount of support just with the containment and what they were brought into it, and just looking up and down, heel and forefoot zoom is something Nike's not really doing very often, or Jordan brand. You have the Jumpman 2020 with forefoot zoom, you have the Why Not line with forefoot zoom. The Jordan CP3 does have heel and forefoot zoom, but that's not nearly as comparative, although it does tell you how great of value the CP3 line has been, or hopefully currently is. Now they dropped that heel zoom for the latest generation, so that still wouldn't necessarily count. That was for the 11, not the 12. So that takes us to really the most logical competitor, and that's the signature line Jordan 34, and this is the SE edition. The reason I think it's most comparable is because this has the upgraded lateral containment and support that will give it equal kind of shots as far as to see what is going to be better between the old school retros, for all my old sneakerheads out there who think the old ones are the best and Jordan wore those, and the newest modern tech. So now we have our players. Let's see which one goes on top. All right, starting with fit. Now, I am a 12 wide, but I do get a 12.5, which generally fits just about perfect. 12.5 is hard to find, so generally I am getting a size 13 in a majority of my shoes. Now, the reason I couldn't do a 12 in, ironically, the Jordan 12 or the 13 is just the way the bucket or the foam sits. You actually want to be inside of the shoe, so you're sitting within the midsole a little bit, which is aiding the containment. Very nice. But if you have a wide foot, you're going to start to push out some of this foam here, and it's not quite as comfortable. So going to 12.5 or 13 makes a huge difference. Now the 14, I am able to get away with doing a straight size 12. If you have a wide toe box, something to be worried about. These things can potentially get in the way, but they do mold fairly well. 12.5 again fits me perfect, so I do have a lot of 13s to be completely honest. Now, fit wise, true to size, unless you're a wide footer. If you're a wide footer, go up that half size on either one of these, and that goes with the recent release Flints. If you have a wide toe box, these are going to be okay, even if you don't have the wide midfoot. And same thing for wide toe box. Just watch out for these kind of teeth on both sides, these kind of Ferrari inspired containment pieces. Now, as far as the materials, the 14 does come in a couple variations. This with that full length leather, this is, or full grain, going to give you a little more lateral containment, but not as much flexibility as you had on something with kind of the stitches like we had on the last shot version. That with the stitching is a little bit more flexible. It does feel a little bit lighter, so that does come into performance. Whereas the 13, the materials I really like, they put that overlays on either side that give it that, you know, Black Panther looking vibe, and that aided with the containment where you really feel locked in, kind of part of the lacing system, and the materials overall, with especially with that nubuck or suede, depending on the model that you got. Some of them have leather right on the toe cap, which is just beautiful. I think the materials on either one of these, depending on the colorway, depending on the year, have been very, very good, which is one of the aspects where when you buy a Jordan 13 or 14, yes, these were performance models on court, but they looked amazing, and you can absolutely use them off the court as well. Now, the fit on the Jordan 34 has been a little contentious, and that's because various models, depending on the colorway, have had various materials. Now, if you got the Blue Void colorway or the Amber colorway, that's something that had a little bit more stretch to it, so you could go true to size if you had a wide midfoot. But if you had a wide toe box, this plastic piece does take some breaking in, so some folks have had to go up half a size. I have a size 12 and a size 13. The 13 actually fits me really well, but I did find after break-in, I had to really torque it down. This was the opposite, went with a 12 after I broke in. I think maybe I prefer the 12, but on the mid-size model, they actually did not make a 12.5. They are making 12.5s in the lows, so you can imagine I'll be getting a 12.5 in the low tops as soon as I can. Now, as far as the materials, like I said, each one use a different material. The Black Cat colorway and the initial bread colorway with the white, black, and red used kind of a performance woven material that was really plasticky. That didn't give as much. That one I tried on a 12 and didn't really work. Felt a little bit cheaper, and with the Jordan 34, they really wanted to make it the lightest Jordan possible, but they did make quite a bit of sacrifices. On the 34, I believe because you have the additional zipper and level of containment, some of the weak points here are the lace holes, and you're not getting as much strain as you would here as on the other models. Also on the SE, you are getting this beautiful cross-stitch leather on the shoe, as well as leather on the heel. So The materials overall on most of the 34s are not nearly as nice. The 34 SE, I think, really carries on the tradition of the Jordan brand, being able to use something on court and off court. And I will give the edge as far as the best fit probably to the 14, but if you're able to get the SE version, this specific one, because the materials give, because this does break in, generally you're able to go true to size or up that half size, very similar to the 14 either way. The materials used on this, again, are top notch while also being lighter and more flexible. I'm going to give the edge to the 34 SE, but not to the 34 overall. I think the Jordan 14 is going to get the kind of overall edge because most of those colorways are using either a really nice suede or really nice leathers. And fit, again, I'm going to give to the 34 SE, with 14 being a close second. The 13, because of the way your foot sits in the midsole, it can give potentially some people, depending on your foot shape, some issues. Down to support. Now, the Jordan brand has always been really good about having a lot of support. The Jordan 11 was the first shoe with that full carbon fiber shank. The Jordan 12, I think, was a little overboard with support, and we'll have the comparison on that next week. So the Jordan 13 and 14 lighten things up while still offering a good amount of support overall, whether that's containment, structural rigidity, lockdown. And we'll jump in. The lacing methods are going to be very similar. We can kind of take a look in here. You can see those lace hoops where those actually go through the shoe and really pull and hold you in. Now, this does the same thing on the 13 and the 14. So again, fit, talked about that, is going to be similar as far as how it's locking you in. But because they both have this asymmetrical, kind of see it here where it comes down on the medial side and then the lateral side is nice and high, and you can see that there. Oops, these are opposite. Essentially, support is very, very similar. And again, the difference being the 14, they were able to make this a little bit lighter. I believe this is giving you a little bit more containment, lateral structural rigidity, just because you do have that piece coming all the way up, kind of aiding with the heel cup, which again went all the way up, so you have a little more locked in feel. You definitely feel secure, where this kind of took things a different direction from the 12, where this was more flexible, this was lighter, allowed MJ to move a little bit more. This is something that gave him just that little bit more support, where again, with some of the hard jabs and moves he's making, his foot felt way more protected. So between the 13 and 14, again, I'm gonna give the leg up to overall support to the 14 overall, between containment, lateral, this came there, heel cup as far as locking your foot in, and then overall to stability, just because the way this is segmented and you have kind of that divot, you can kind of see it here. I'll see if I can get a better shot. This is a lot more stable. You felt a little bit more planted. When you're ready to get up your shot, this is going to give you that slight edge for stability. So again, heads up on the 14. How far have we come on the 2020 34? All right, so the Jordan 34 SE specifically, I do want to point that out, does have a huge upgrade in lateral containment because the additional materials over the regular 34. If you were to compare a regular 34 to the Jordan 14, I would say overall the Jordan 14 is going to be a more supportive shoe, as far as you're going to have just overall better containment, better lockdown. Stability is about the same. Now the Jordan 34, they did give us a completely flat, wide base. This is something they haven't done in quite a few years, just because they had that flight plate technology. Now with the Eclipse, which you can see right through the shoe here, this is something where you have a more stable base. The heel cup actually is huge, very similar to the 14. So lockdown is still pretty good, but on the regular 34s, you did have issues with the lacing and the materials weren't nearly as strong. This is giving you all the support you're getting from the 14, nay 5%, at something that is much more flexible and is much lighter. It's 2020. We've came a long way, and this shoe shows it. You're getting the support, you're getting the newer materials mixed with the older materials, and you're getting that without a penalty on your feet, where you can play in these longer just because you don't feel like you're wearing ankle weights a few hours into play. All right, down to the cushion. These all have heel and forefoot Zoom Air. Many players talk about how the original Jordan 14 was the most comfortable shoe they've played in. This is all I have to say. All my old heads out there, all the guys who want the original Jordans, the Jordan 2020 has one of, if not the largest forefoot Zoom bag Jordan Brand's ever used. You can actually visually see it. I'll get some close-ups. So it is exposed, so you could see the Air and the Air Jordan. And it's funny how they give that kind of visual, which is kind of a 30-year call out to that little hole they had expressed in the 14. But this is also using a double stacked heel zoom. This is the bounciest, most comfortable max cushion shoe on the market. If you haven't experienced a 34, this thing is ridiculous. Now, casually, because of this Eclipse plate, this shoe does have a very strong spring effect. So if you try to use this simply walking around, some folks have found it maybe not uncomfortable, very uneasy, unnerving, the way the shoe's trying to push you forward. On court, though, it's like giving a little extra nudge. You can do it. It's like having a really encouraging coach. Just keep going. You know, push. Come on. It's fast break. Go. Move. This thing is incredible. Casually, I could see the 13 and 14 maybe being a little more toned down. They don't have nearly the cushion, but it's still quite comfortable for walking around in casual use, while still being plenty comfortable and having enough cushion to use on court with the amount of impact you put on your body when you're playing. But by and large, it's not even a comparison. 2020, guys, we are 22 years, 21 years after those released. Jordan has came a long way. Unlike the 11 to the PG4, this is a huge upgrade. All right, down the traction. Now, the reason you're seeing the Jordan 13s behind me is because the Jordan 13 did have podular herringbone traction. It works decently well. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not nearly as good as all the herringbone we had on the 14. 14 is absolutely an upgrade from the 13, from durability to coverage to the stability of it just being completely flat where you have ground contact pretty much at any point. 14, legitimately, I could see why Jordan put these on and said, yeah, I'm keeping these on my feet. But Mr. Jordan, you can't wear those yet. They're not released. I don't care. I'm keeping these on for the court. These still hold up to this day. Herringbone is tried and true. And there's a reason Jordan Brand went back to it. After years and years of not having herringbone on a shoe for Jordan Brand, where they used various storytelling and design aspects, the Jordan 34, after, I believe, was a 15-year hiatus. Guys, please correct me. I think maybe on the 25 they used version of herringbone, but no shoe had full herringbone for a long time. So yeah, good call by Jordan Brand going old school technically. Now, this clear translucent actually does a really good job. I do have the blue voids. That does a great job too. The herringbone in general is going to be fantastic. I'm trying to put my nails into this. It uses a fairly firm rubber, although I would trust the retros a little bit more if you're going to be using these outdoor. The leg up is going to be a little bit on the 34, just because this is using, and you guys can see here, a little bit more aggressive herringbone with slightly more coverage than what we're getting on the 14, but very close. And it's funny how, to improve on the traction, they actually went old school. Now, the only Jordan signature sneaker that had better traction than this was going back to the Jordan 28, but that was a very soft, malleable setup that didn't really last that long. I would go with this all day, every day, where this is something that's going to last. I can use it casually. I can wear it for the whole season. I'm not going to have any issues. The 28, albeit a much better performer on court, is something that wore down rather quickly with the rubber compound they used, with how soft it was. Sticky and amazing, but durable it was not. So wrapping things up, retro versus modern. What is better? Well, if you guys are keeping score at home, The 34 wins by a landslide. It's not even close. This is why a lot of you guys, I have people commenting or ask me, you know, can you use a retro? Do you recommend using retros? No. Now, can you play in them? Yes. If you're spending $190 on the new Jordan 13 Flints and you want to use them on court, by all means, you can. You can also leave the court and rock them casually. It's a beautiful shoe. I absolutely love it, which is why I still have a dead stock original pair, because they were that amazing to me even so many years ago. To this day, they're beautiful. But if you're looking for on-court performance, they don't hold a candle, I don't know if there's a pun there, to the Jordan 34. They really have focused in the last 5-6 years, with the 33 kind of being a lapse where they really just wanted to see how much tech they can put in the shoe, on more performance and not just looks and seeing what they can get away with. The 34 is an amazing shoe. This is probably my shoe for 2019. I never even did that video. We're here in the middle of 2020 already. For 2020, I'm gonna have to take a look and see how this stacks up. But the SE version specifically, we'll see how the low does. Blows everything out of the water. The 14 is a legitimate performance upgrade over the 13 as well. I can understand why Jordan played in it and did not want to go back to the 13. It's an upgrade on the traction. It's a little bit lighter. It's an upgrade on support, the fit, the lockdown. Overall, fantastic evolution from the 13 to the 14, where you have two very different shoes using very similar tooling, but just upgrading every little bit area. But 22 years later, what do we have? We have something that's lighter, more comfortable, more flexible, with equals amount of support, especially on this version, the SE, with traction that honestly gives a little bit of homage to the original while still improving upon it. Guys, girls, if you like that video, please give it a thumbs up. We'll have links down below to some of these shoes that you are able to get. So if you do click on those links, you do help the channel out. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe down below. Comment, let me know if I missed something, if there's something you want to see. We will get to part 2 next week. So forgive me going out of order, but I thought it was apropos with the release of the Jordan 13 Flint, and hopefully helping you guys make a decision on if you wanted to buy that or not. And again, stylistically, memories, something you wanted to get, and especially after watching The Last Dance, there's a lot of reasons to just go and get it, and I understand. But focusing just on performance, hopefully it gave you some information that helps with your decision. This is Levi Sneaker Gears. Really appreciate you guys, and I will see you later.